that money flow. We'll keep the shiny side up wherever we go. Set your own schedule, master of the road, hauling freedom's cargo, lightening up your load. Tips and tricks for truckers, yeah, we're helping you from dawn till dusk. We'll see it through. Staying driven hard in it every mile, hunting gears and wearing a smile. From hustling 60 truckers, yeah, we're helping you from dawn till dusk. We'll see it through. Staying driven hard in every mile, hunting gears and wearing a smile. From hustling city streets to the country lane, driven trucking, we ease the strain. Keep your eyes on that line, from sunrise to moonshine. Owner operators, this show's for you. Tune in, get tips, and roll on through. From diesel fumes to mountain views, we'll guide your way, hauling grit and glory every single day. On the rubber, feel the freedom in every bend. Driven trucking, your best highway friends. Staying driven hard in it every mile, hunting gears and wearing a smile. From hustling 60 truckers, yeah, we're helping you from dawn till dusk. We'll see it through. Staying driven hard in every mile, hunting gears and wearing a smile. From hustling city streets to the country lane, driven trucking, we ease the strain.
Good morning. How's everybody doing today? Hopefully you're all doing well. Hopefully you're all in a great position this week, despite what we've seen on the load boards, but making that money and being safe about it. That'd be the most important thing. Yeah, so today's Friday. Probably already got your load set up running through the weekend. Hopefully that's the case, because I'll be honest, freight just doesn't look great today. But that's the whole point of the show, to show you kind of where the freight is at. If you are in an area where you are curious, kind of what a specific lane rate would be, just drop that in the comments in the comment section here, and I will get to that after I do go through the trucking market update. If you're here for the trucking market update, you're catching this on the replay, check down in the comments down below. I have time stamped when I can't talk, when that market update actually starts. So make it easy for you, right? But anyway, good morning, work harder. And I'm still waiting back on your exact question there. They're busy, and we're us lowly streamers and content creators are a little low on the totem pole. Although that's not what they tell me, but it's okay. They're all busy, but I will have that answer for you at some point about whether or not you can search by commodity on DAT. I don't think so, but maybe I don't know everything. I don't know everything at all. What I do know is that we got a new dad joke today. Let's get right in that, because I want to cover these at the beginning rather than later in the stream, which I nearly forgot yesterday. So, what's an astronaut's favorite part of a computer? The space bar, of course. This calendar is great. I haven't ran across one. Well, I've ran across a couple whenever I was scrolling through, to get all the way to September. It's kind of odd buying a calendar in August for the current year, but I saw a couple that I didn't like. But for the most part, I mean, these have been decent. I think they've been decent. I think so. Anyway, appreciate you guys tuning in to this. Starting next week, I will add. I haven't decided specifically what I'm going to add, but I am going to add something else to help you Most likely, it's going to be the weather. That way, you guys can have maybe a heads up. I mean, obviously, I can't report on the entire United States, but if I see something that is going to pop up looking a little rough, maybe I'll bring that to you guys' attention. It'll be just a really short segment, but I do think that that's something that's helpful. For the most part, when I was over the road, I kept a really close eye on the weather. That comes from what I consider my trainer. He was my co-driver for 5 years, and he was a longtime trucker. I did an interview with him way earlier on this channel, and good old Frank, bless him, he was really good about keeping up with the weather, and I definitely that was one of the things that I picked up from him because it can surprise you out of nowhere. And, you may need that extra 15-20 minutes to leave just a tad bit earlier, you know, something like that. It's always good to keep an eye on that. So I will start that up and get that going. All right. Well, it looks like for the most part, the majority of people that usually hop in are here today. So we're going to go ahead and get started. So, as per usual, we're going to start with the national load counts. And what this does is this gives us a general overview of the states for loads in to loads out ratio. That way, we know where the decent freight might be located. It's not always going to be the case. Sometimes hot loads pop up, and you always want to check to see where you're at. But this will point us in the right direction as far as what states have a higher supply, or excuse me, a higher demand, because there are lower trucks. So with lower supply, lower trucks, higher demand, which means you can negotiate a little bit harder and make more money. So over here on the right hand side on our dashboard on DAT, which by the way, if you're considering signing up, there's a link down in the description box. You can get 10% off for the first 12 months. Um, this is where I like to start. So Alabama looking really rough, less than 50% on the loads in to loads out ratio. That's pretty rough there. Arkansas just below that 50% mark, so okay shape. Arizona really rough, no surprise. California's in decent shape. They've got 1,574 loads in to 1,940 loads out. Probably a good state to run, multi-day load. Typically want to run, a couple days, maybe catch a reset there on Sunday. At least that's how I like to operate. Colorado, rough shape, no surprise. Connecticut, a little bit below that 50% mark. So I think it actually gained ground up there in the Northeast. So maybe we'll see some freight up there in the Northeast. And you Northerners can make some money this weekend. That'd be nice. Delaware, pretty rough, only 41 loads out. Florida still in really rough shape. Yesterday, their loads out were down in the mid threes, I think, maybe even low 300s. So there's a few more loads out, but and less loads in. I will say that. But I mean, when you're talking about 1,264 loads in to 453 loads out, that's rough. That's really rough. So just get the heck out of there if you can with whatever you can. Hopefully, you made some money on the way in. Georgia, 1,360 loads in to 723 loads out. Still just not great for that area. Iowa, 328 loads in, so to 297 out, below that 50% mark. Earlier in the week and even last week, they were in much better shape, and you could actually negotiate a decent rate over there. Idaho, above average, despite only having 125 loads out. Illinois in pretty good shape. So, Illinois is another good one to do a couple, kind of a couple day run. Um, I mean, you're looking at 1,000 to 1,200 miles unless you go all the way to the West Coast, pretty much for the most part. So, kind of an easier weekend load, in my opinion, running out of there. But negotiate, negotiate. And especially one of the things that you can do is at the moment, if you have access to these tools, you can see that this heat map's in fairly rough shape. It's not really not looking all that great. So when you keep that in mind, it's the reason why I do all of this. There's multiple ways to ask for bumps in rate, and coming out of Illinois, no matter where you're headed at the moment, you can always tell them, well, hey, look, freight's rough on the other side. I need some more money. Multiple ways that you can ask for that. That's why I do this. Indiana in pretty good shape. 586 loads in to 969 loads out. A little bit down percentage wise as far as what it was earlier, but still really good shape. Kansas just below that 50% mark. Kentucky has come has progressed nicely, I would say, throughout the week. 376 loads in to 468 out. So looking in good shape there. Louisiana below that 50% mark, so a little bit rough. Louisiana was doing better earlier in the week. Massachusetts 263 loads in to 208 out. I do believe freight is up over there, but you've got a lot of trucks there. Good thing the states are small up there, right? Maryland looking good. 274 loads in to 337 out. That's much better shape now. Maine has freight. 68 loads in to 52 loads out. So actually, it's actually much better than what it was earlier in the week. Michigan 508 to 613 into out, and that's really good. That's much better than what it was earlier. So going to be a good state for getting those weekend loads. Minnesota also in much better shape than what it was. 238 loads in to 386 out. Now, obviously, there's not a ton of freight that goes up there, but if you are up there, it's a good time to get a load today. Missouri, below average, 400 or below 50%. Those are interchangeable, by the way, if I slip up. Missouri, 449 loads in to 388 out. Mississippi, pretty rough shape, 254 in, 185 out. Montana has some freight. They got 36 loads headed out of there. North Carolina has slipped even further, 924 loads in to 688 out. So they're looking pretty rough over there. North Dakota's got a lot of freight right now. Only 48 trucks headed that way, and 195 loads need to be hauled out of there. So if you're up there in North Dakota, hold out. Make them pay you. That's a really good ratio right there. Nebraska 172 in to 96 out. New Hampshire's got a little bit of freight, 97 in to 33 out. If you're headed that way, probably need to find something different. Jersey, pretty good shape, but I will say that the loads are way down. 397 trucks in to 885 out, so pretty rough there. Yeah, New Mexico's got some freight. They've got 73 trucks headed or loads headed out of there. Nevada, 176 loads in to 321 out, so pretty good shape there. New York, way below where it started off in the week. 531 headed that way to 841 needed to head out. Ohio was doing way better earlier in the week at 1,052 trucks, trucks headed in, but only 1,235 headed out. While it's still above that 50% mark, probably not going to be able to negotiate too hard despite it being in decent shape. So keep that in mind. Oklahoma 348 in to 181 out. Oregon is making ground. They're so what that tells me is that you can negotiate up there. You can negotiate coming out of Oregon because they've had some loads that have been sitting there. It's pretty clear to me because that loads out number has just climbed while the loads in number really hasn't done a whole heck of a lot. So that's also going to be a good place to negotiate and make some more money. Pennsylvania, 1,119 loads in to 1,479 out. So decent state. Don't think there's going to be a whole heck of a lot of negotiation going on there, though, in Pennsylvania. But hey, maybe. Arm yourself with knowledge, and all you can do is ask. What's the worst thing they could say? No. And from that point, you can decide whether or not to run it. Rhode Island's about 50-50. They've got 24 loads headed out. South Carolina is about 50-50 as well. So if you're headed down, or you headed over to the Carolinas, or even maybe Atlanta, probably want to look towards South Carolina. Once again, I think that was the case last week, and slightly towards the beginning of this week. So a little bit better ratio coming out of South Carolina. South Dakota is in okay shape as well. 29 loads in to 65 loads headed out of there. So either one of the Dakotas, you should be able to negotiate pretty hard with and make some decent money. Tennessee 782 in to 432 out. That's pretty low for Tennessee. Texas getting wrecked still. 2,715 loads in to 2,144 coming out. That's the story with Texas. I'm sure you guys have probably been there and understand what goes on down here. Utah, 250 loads in, 135 out. That's losing ground there. So looking a little rough over there. Virginia, a little bit above that 50% mark, barely, not really much to speak of. 593 headed in to 595 out. Vermont's got some loads, and it's actually above that 50% mark. So 44 in to 49 out. Maybe that's your best northeastern state to get out of there, but don't bounce. Call and negotiate first before you head that way, because that's not a lot of loads. Washington, 291 loads in to 307 coming out. So once again, that Northwest is still showing to be a little bit better than average. And that's probably because it's just been, it's been a cool zone for a while. So there's probably not nearly as many people going up that way as per usual. So, maybe try to negotiate a little bit up there, but don't get stuck. That's never want to get stuck up in the Northwest. Although there are definitely worse spots to get stuck. I loved going up there. Wisconsin, 409 loads in to 805 coming out, so that's in really good shape. So you got that Wisconsin, that Minnesota, even though they don't connect, but Michigan as well. I guess they kind of connect, but really that seems to be kind of your best bet for negotiating harder and making more money is all the way up there in the north in that Great Lakes area. West Virginia in pretty good shape, it seems. They're definitely above that 50% mark. There we go. 103 loads in to 135 out. So, I mean, nothing really too much to speak of, but if you are headed that way, might be a good spot to don't overlook the good old West Virginia there. And then Wyoming, hey, they've got some freight. And it's actually in decent shape. It's only 26 loads in to 68 out. So, not bad. Not bad. Good morning, Hoss. Howdy, Josh. Autistic Trucker, what are the states with the worst or strictest DOT? I've always had trouble with the Oregon DOT. Yeah, Oregon's pretty rough. This is one of those questions that it's gonna be experiential, right? It's gonna be really kind of related to who's got the best stories. I've got a rough story about Montana. Montana's pretty rough. But yeah, certainly Oregon. They've, if you've had trouble, a lot of people have had trouble with Oregon. It's typically your western states. It's California, Oregon. Um, I've heard Washington, but I never had any issue with Washington. When you head in to Washington, coming from what is it, 84 over there? Can't remember. No, 84 runs east and west. Um, but right there at the center, it's right past that little alien truck stop. You can tell it's been a while, right? My rust is showing, but there's a way to actually bypass that scale. You can head in, get off. There is a scale on that's over there, and it is occasionally open, so you're not always going to bypass that scale. But the majority of the time, there is a way to do that. And it's like as soon as you get into Washington, I think it's the first exit. Um, and there's a highway that you can run. If you're really heavy, you may not want to do it because it puts you in, you got some terrain over there. But anyway, California though, they always hold the crown, especially down there in the Los Angeles area. They're going to be the most strict. But really, any given state at any given point can really pop you because they may look for specific things. Wyoming was really rough for a stretch. There was a point where freaking every flatbed driver out there was getting checked, and I mean they were busting out the measuring tapes. Like it was a bit asinine. They busted out the measuring tapes on me once, and yeah, so they can all be rough, really. But probably a better question is like the most lax. The most lax, in my opinion, is maybe just because I have the most experience with it. Is one of the states anyway. Is usually Texas. Texas is usually pretty lax about it. What I will say about Texas though is when you get off the main interstates, you get on the kind of those beaten paths, you start taking highways around stuff and things like that. The local PD can be pretty rough. And if you miss some signs and you wind up running through one of those little towns, they're waiting for you. I can assure you that. So hopefully that gives you some insight. Um, looking over, I'm not going to go through this since we've already been through this multiple times, and this doesn't really change. Um, so, I mean, if you're watching, you can maybe pause, come back, look later, pause the video, and look at these weekly snapshot numbers. It shows you load to truck ratio and spot rates, and it breaks it down by van, flatbed, and reefer. However, this does change, so this is good to look at. September is still showing down a penny from August to $2 flat for vans, which isn't the greatest, but also isn't the worst in the world. So if you manage your truck properly and put yourself in the proper positions, and don't get basically don't chase those loads that pay super high, but they go to those crazy areas, like the middle of Utah or the middle of Arizona or Colorado, things like that. Don't what I forget the word that I'm looking for, but anyway, don't try to chase those huge paying loads, because oftentimes you take such an ass whooping on the way out that it winds up not being worth it. If you just keep yourself in the better spots, try to keep yourself to the hotter spots, you'll actually make more money. You'll roll more continuously, and it's just better overall. Flatbed is up 3 cents from August, from 241 to 244, and reefer's down a penny from 241 to 240. Looking over here at the heat map, this is one of the best tools in my opinion, because this just gives you a great overview. It kind of doubles with what you're looking at whenever we're looking at states. Where I start, this actually breaks it down to the markets. You can go even further, but I don't think it's necessary to go beyond market. Um, like for instance, Georgia, all the freight's going to be up here near the Atlanta area. Not really a surprise, right? Not a whole heck of a lot going on down in the southern half of Georgia. So this is a really good tool to let you know exactly where that freight's going to be located. Like Indiana is a really good example. When we looked at it, they were nearly 50% more freight out than trucks in. It would be 150%, excuse me. So where is that freight actually located? Well, it's located in the bottom half, Indianapolis, that little circle down there. So that's what this is really good for. So just kind of breezing over this really quickly. Earlier in the week, that northwestern area, that Seattle, Portland area, they were showing blue. They're now showing average, which we'll take average at this point, right? Considering how cold that it's been. Even the lower half of Oregon, northern parts of California, and even northern parts of Nevada are showing a color upgrade. I'm not going to say it's great though. The majority of the freight on the West Coast is, of course, going to be in this Los Angeles market. And San Francisco kind of fluctuates. Like it's never going to be super hot. Well, I'm not going to say that. The majority of the time, it's not going to be super hot, like as compared to Los Angeles, but it does fluctuate between this red color and this orange color, which you can see the color coordinated right there if you have access to DAT. This is one of the better tools in my opinion. Moving across, there's some freight in Arizona, but I never trusted Arizona. I actually got stuck there a couple times. Truck broke down a couple times. Like just Arizona is just a big old fat no from me. Looking over at Texas, of course, the freight's in Houston and Dallas, and even there's a little bit of freight out west of Dallas. Not too far. I don't think that goes beyond probably Midland, Odessa area, maybe. I'd guess. Looking at the dirty South, so the southeastern part of the United States, you got Memphis is in okay shape. It's not great though. So if you are headed that way, you're headed to Arkansas or kind of the middle of Tennessee, or maybe even Mississippi, Alabama. Probably going to want to look for Memphis. I mean, I guess from Alabama it's a long bounce, but you may want to keep it on your radar. Maybe a load that picks up on Saturday, or maybe a load that you can book it to if you have enough hours left over for the week. Maybe you don't need a reset for the weekend, and you get a better paying load running out of Memphis. Atlanta, it's always going to have the freight, but even though this heat map over here shows that the North Carolina is doing a little bit better than South Carolina. Got a little bit more negotiating power in South Carolina. Now, one of the things to keep in mind is when you're in Atlanta, it's super easy to run, just hop over here to North Carolina. It's less than a day's bounce. So, just be wary over here. Don't get stuck over in this really southeastern part. I apologize if you can hear that. My dog is I think he got into something this morning because he's going through it today. So apologies. Has me a little concerned. Sorry. Looking to the Midwest, Chicago was in okay shape, but as you can see right here, like it's way below normal, right? That it's showing that plus 15. It can go all the way up to plus 100. And the darker red, the better the area. Chicago's just been a shock to me since I've started doing this. It's just been way, way below normal. Indiana and Ohio are your best bets, but Indiana has the best load to truck ratio. So despite Ohio being darker red, I think Indiana is probably the way to go. So if you're in that Midwest, hopefully you're close to Indiana and you can get a load running out of there. Looking up to this northern part of the map, the Dakotas were in good shape. There's not a ton of freight up there, so I mean, you're certainly not going to bounce that way. But if you are in the Dakotas, of course, it's going to be the eastern half of North Dakota is going to be where the freight's at, and maybe if you're down here on the eastern side of South Dakota, you may want to look a little bit, maybe consider bouncing farther than you normally would up here to North Dakota to get a better paying load, but certainly negotiate first. Minnesota showing where the freight's at up there. It's over here on the closer to that North Dakota side. So that's you've got of course you've got freight coming out of Minneapolis. Anytime you get a big rural area or yeah, an area with a large city, there's going to be freight there. But the other freight is also located up here in this northwestern part. So um, I don't think I would bounce out of Minneapolis to run up here. I mean, it would have to be a serious pan load. It would have to be paying way better than normal. And from my experience, it just they don't get too crazy up there. But you never know. May want to call. Wisconsin was in good shape, right? So if you're up here in Minneapolis, between Minneapolis and Wisconsin, you could go either way. Those are in pretty good shape. You can even run down and bounce down to Chicago, but typically there's so many trucks down there, you're not gonna be able to negotiate too terribly hard. Michigan, if you're in Michigan, you're in a really good spot. Hopefully you're on that western side, but and not over here near Detroit, because Detroit's it's rough over there. I mean, with the economy the way that it is, even though they're lying to us and tell us how great it is, it's in terrible shape. And the car business is not doing so hot at the moment. So if hopefully you're in Michigan, or yeah, Michigan, you're going to be looking at freight on that western half. And then looking over here in the Northeast, this is a pretty normal site here. Southern part of New York, New Jersey, and kind of the Philly side of Pennsylvania are going to be where your freight's located. Maryland was in pretty good shape too. So just kind of this entire area right here, basically spanning from Jersey all the way over to Indiana. So yeah, so that's gonna be it for the market update. If you have any questions or curious about specific lanes, let me know. So let's turn to the comments for now while we possibly wait on some while we possibly wait on. Sorry, I'm concerned about my dog. That was not the first time he's done that this morning. Angela is asking, does anyone have any ELD recommendations? Assuming you're an owner operator, and what I don't honestly I don't remember what I was using when I was at some of the larger companies. I used the big old it's not Qualcomm, but the other brand. I'm sure that's not what you're asking about. I did use one of the tablet um, one of the tablet ELDs, and it was one of the more is one of the more well-known ones, so you probably know it. I apologize for not remembering the actual specific name, but the one thing that I will say is that a lot of drivers that I know that ran tablets, and ran ELDs on or the ELD software on a tablet, the most important thing about that is make sure that it's mounted. It needs to be mounted. It cannot be sitting, sitting in the jump seat, sitting on the floor. They will ticket you. A friend of mine got ticketed, I think, in Colorado for not having it mounted, and numerous others got tickets for not having it mounted. So if you're looking that way, figure out some way to mount it. New Josh, hello room, new here to ownership. My good tips for a new guy. Keep that truck rolling, Josh. um, don't chase the large paying loads to the bad areas. That's generally a rookie mistake, so to speak. It's kind of stick to the main hubs. I'm assuming that you're running a van. If you're running a flatbed, I can tell you exactly where to go. But if you're running a van, just stick to the main areas. Really, find your lane, and the best thing that you can do for yourself is try to work with the same brokers. The ones that took care of you, the ones that are responsive, the ones that when you actually show up to these shippers and receivers, they are exactly how those brokers were painting that whole picture, right? If you get there and there's a bunch of surprises and delays and all, basically a nightmare, don't deal with that broker again. But the most important thing that like brokers, they're hopefully your friend. I mean, as much as you can say that, but if they will continually keep you moving, then they will be your friend, right? Find brokers. I would say it's probably the biggest tip. But I've got numerous videos, not necessarily this live, that you know gives more into depth of different things that owner operators should be looking out for. So you can kind of scroll back through the channel. I created multiple playlists, but I had so many videos. I don't know, they got pretty long. So may want to scroll through some of those and check those out. But hey, good luck to you. It can be done. Just do the best that you can, right? And good luck. Angela, hey Josh, we are new too. 93 days with a new authority. Well, congratulations. If you have any questions as well, you can kind of refer back to some videos, but I'd be more than happy to answer what I can from the business side. Obviously, I can't really, not from the truck driving side, but at this point or this juncture, if you guys are owning your own trucks, you don't need tips on the truck driving side. Good morning, Laura. You have a safe weekend as well. She says, everyone have a safe weekend. The autistic trucker Samsara, you're referring back to the ELD. It wasn't what I ran, not Samsara, but I'm pretty sure that is a brand, I think. Joshua, thank you so much for answering so quick. Truth be told, I am leasing to own. Oh man, it's cutting off part of that. Sorry. I am leasing to own. Just got load from Pasadena to Superior, Wisconsin. Well, good luck to you. There's a lot of videos out there that are a little bit, or they're kind of anti-lease operators. I'll be honest, I was one of them. So, what I would recommend is to try and save every penny that you possibly can. Get your own truck, and hopefully that's a walkaway lease. If not, just do the best that you can to get through it. Um, they're not all bad, don't. I don't want to. I'm not talking negatively about all of them, but the majority of them are bad. And the reason that they're bad is because they're essentially overcharging you for a lot of things, and they're underpaying you because they're taking such a big cut out of the rates. So just be careful. Be very careful. What company, if you don't mind saying, Josh, well, that's good. I'm glad it's a walk away. That's number one, because if it starts to smell rotten, man, don't sit there and don't try to tough it out. Get the hell out of there, because I can assure you it's not going to get better if it gets worse. While we wait on hopefully his response for what company it is, I've got a couple of videos that go over the lease operator stuff. And yeah, if you can find a reasonably priced truck, which I actually don't, I have no idea what pricing is for trucks these days. I imagine they probably got high last year and then they're on their way back down to normalcy, or if they're not already kind of lower than normal. But that's a total guess. I have no idea. Um, get that 2 years of your business running. That way you can actually buy your truck with business credit. You're going to be in much better shape buying it that way rather than trying to get a personal loan. You can go kind of the cheap route, which is always a crapshoot. If you have access to backup funds, like let's say 10 grand, if you got 10 grand sitting there, you can you can go the route of like a Discover loan. I know a couple people that did that. They bought, but they were able to qualify for a pretty substantial Discover loan. The interest rate isn't horrible on it, but I mean, you're not going to get more than like 30, 40 grand. So, that when you look at trucks, that can be a little daunting, buying a cheap truck like that. Um, how the market used to be, you really didn't want to go below like 50 or 60 grand, because the value for what you're getting for your money was just usually not worth it. If you bought trucks cheaper than that, you're essentially rolling the dice on whether or not that truck's going to be a good truck, more so than normal. And that's the biggest key with trucking, is to just keep yourself in a position where you're kind of above average, right? Like you're above average breakdown ratio, you're above average, just across the board, like, getting fuel mileage and getting all those things. Um, Back in the day, like I said, I don't know what truck pricing is now. I'm sure it's not too much different, but kind of that sweet spot was like 40, sometime probably mid 40,000s to about the $60,000 range. That provided you with a decent truck though, but not too high where when you had things go wrong, you could still, pay for the truck. It provided you with a new enough truck that you were still a few years away from needing a rebuild if you needed it early. And oftentimes they were in pretty decent shape. Now you have to do your research. Like, you got to do your research when buying a truck. Like, that's the biggest thing. Got to do your research. Got to pick it apart, especially with those stupid ass DPF systems. I'm not going to recommend that anyone delete their truck, but now I can say it freely. My truck was deleted. I deleted my truck 6 months after I bought it, even though I took a much higher risk than what I'm talking about right now. Um, I took a risk that the idle time was over 50%, and it also had a blower on it. So, like just rough, right? It was really, 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 really rough. But the greatest thing I ever did for my truck was delete it. My fuel mileage went up, and my maintenance was next to nothing. I broke down, but like it was just all normal stuff, right? Like putting a gasket in wrong, and just dumb shit. I had a I had a fuel line bust, which I replaced that in Arizona. That was a nightmare. But just because of where it was located, this little things like that. Obviously, I can't tell you to delete your truck, but if you're in a position where you can, you're going to save so much more money, and that truck's going to last you so much longer. Um, but there's only one shop that I recommend to do it. One. I've heard of three different people that do really well by it. I'm not gonna throw their names out there publicly, but I'm more than happy if you want to shoot me an email at driventrucking@yahoo.com to let you know who that is. So, anyway, let's see here. Color fantastic, Samsung Qualcomm, walk away. Still driving a minivan. What's up, Hensley? How you doing, man? I'm disappointed I never was able to make it through your part of town. There were a couple times where I drove through, but it was so late that I was like, I'm not gonna bother him. No, not driving a minivan. Not anymore, man. I hope you're doing well. You still trucking? I get your notification for lives every once in a while, but I'm far removed from YouTube at the moment. Do you ever get an itch to get out on the road again? Yeah, I do all the time. I miss it, man. There are so many things that I miss about it. Everybody's got to deal with the headaches, right? Of all the BS that goes on, and it's not as good as it used to be. Um, but it's still good enough where, yeah, I miss it. But my kids, man, they're more important to me in spending time with them. Like, just for instance, tonight I'm taking them to, even though they're really young, they love Imagine Dragons, and so there's a concert over here that we're gonna go check out tonight, and I have them for the weekend. So, they're just way more important to me. Used trucks can be under 100K. Are they that expensive? Like, are they like, good Lord. I mean, I know it's going to be a pretty vast range. But like, and this is pretty rough estimate, but like a 4-year-old truck with like 400,000 miles on it was about 60 grand back in the day. That's what I would shoot for if possible. DEF ruins the engine. Yeah, because, well, I don't know. I haven't done my research in the last couple of years, but unless they've come out with some new technology, they were getting much better, much better, but they're still dog shit. You're running dirty air through an engine. Like, that's just dumb. This is just stupid. And then they're claiming that it's good for the environment, yet California's been bitching for a couple of years about how it's killing all the crops. Yeah, good job. Good job. You want to know what that was? That was a money grab from our crappy ass government. Sorry, that's a real sore spot for me. I'll email the companies I've tried lease operator from when I stop. Okay, yeah, no worries, no worries. Hensley, kind of trucking. I run heavy equipment now, but haul my own equipment around. Good money home every night. Hell yeah. And there's so many different ways to make money. That's awesome, man. Congratulations. I hope all that works out for you. So that's cool. I've seen 2023s for under 100K. Gels the engine and clogs the fuel injectors. Yeah. Yeah, then that's the thing. Like, it takes so much maintenance to run those DEF engines properly and they're just not worth it. They're just not. It just messes up. Whatever. Whatever. I mean, everyone's got gripes with that, right? So that's just why I took mine off. Like, I didn't take it off. It was all there, so it looked like it was working properly, but it was not functioning. And guess what? I rolled a million miles and never had to replace my injectors, despite the first 450,000 miles of that truck's life. It ran on with DEF fluid. So, cheers to my boys over there in Georgia. Well, thanks, Hensley, for dropping in, man. Hope everything's works out well for you, and hope you're doing well. If you're down in Houston, hit me up. I'm over on the west side, so if you get down this way, I'm sure you probably still have my number, maybe have my number. But anyway, for everybody else, I appreciate you tuning in. Thank you so much. Like I said, there's gonna be some changes in the future. It's probably not going to be live. I may go live like once a week just because I do enjoy it. I enjoy, conversing with you guys, and I enjoy going off on tangents. So I mean, I don't know. There's lots of different ways that I can work this, but I do think that what I want to do is condense it down for the most part to just make it where it's all value, value, value. in like 10 to 15 minutes. That way everybody can listen to it, spread it across all the different platforms. That's the goal. The goal is next week also to add in some weather though, so I can keep you guys updated and hopefully provide you guys some value. That way, you don't have to check all this stuff whenever you've already got 100 things to do in the morning as it is. I appreciate all you guys. Thanks for tuning in. Um, keep that shiny star up. And as always, stay driven. See you Monday.